Niobium-based A15 alloys are a promising group of type II superconducting materials. Due to their unique superconducting properties, they are widely being researched for applications primarily in particle accelerators. These superconductors have uses in everything from medical treatments, including external beam radiotherapy, to facilitating particle control in the Large Hadron Collider. Since niobium based A15 alloys are able to produce a larger magnetic field at higher temperatures, they reduce the need for large cooling facilities, thus lowering cooling costs and decreasing the size of particle accelerators. The purpose of our study is to better understand the temperature and compositional range of various A15 alloys. We used a combination of computational and experimental techniques and compared results with what has been published in the literature.
For the computational portion of this project, we use techniques from density functional theory, cluster expansion, and Monte Carlo simulations. Density functional theory, known as DFT, was used to determine the enthalpy of a few competing phases of each system. The blue plot represents the formation energy of the most stable structures of these alloys. The orange plot represents the formation energy of various A15 structure compositions. The farther the orange plotted points are from the blue convex hull, the more unstable the configuration is. From these plots, we determined that our focus should be on A15 alloys with a greater niobium fraction. Cluster expansion enumerates structures and fits the energies obtained from DFT to predict the formation energy of the system at all necessary compositions. The plot shows the DFT calculated hull in blue and the cluster expansion fitted hull in red. Monte Carlo simulations use the cluster expansion fit in order to determine the thermodynamic averages of the supercells. This allowed us to account for the entropy of the system and predict the Gibbs free energy curves at temperatures from 100 Kelvin to 2100 Kelvin. The results were a portion of the phase diagram that describes the region of phase stability of the A15 alloys. The Gibbs free energy curves of the A15 phases were compared to the two stable competing phases. Each cross represents the x intersection point of the tangent line to the energy curve of the A15 phase that passes through the point that represents the energy of the competing phase. This describes our region of phase stability.
For the experimental portion of our project, liquid-solid diffusion couples were used to find the compositional ranges of the A15 phases. To create these, 3 by 15 by 20 mm blocks of niobium were polished to a mirror finish on each side. They were then placed in a crucible within a quartz tube with a second metal. The quartz tubes were then backfilled with a non-oxidizing argon atmosphere to prevent vaporization and other chemical reactions. After being heat treated at a range of times and temperatures, the samples were removed from the furnace and a cross-section of the samples were taken. The cross-sections were then examined using BSE and SCSEM and optical microscopy to examine their microstructure. Additionally, energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy and electron probe microanalysis were used to understand the composition of the samples. This data was then used to find the compositional range of the A15 phase when formed at different temperatures. The compositional ranges found were roughly 23.6 to 26 atomic percent tin for the various temperatures of the niobium tin couples, and the A15 phase did not form in the aluminum niobium couples. However, this does not mean that the phase is unstable.
We compared our results to the phase diagrams from the ASM database, as well as phase diagrams created in thermocalc via CalFAD. Although similar solubility trends were evident for all three compounds, our produced results presented to be different from the database solubility percentages. Both the first principle calculations and the diffusion couple experiments revealed a higher solubility of tin at lower temperatures when compared to other sources. As the temperature increased, about 9% of the tin depleted from the niobium tin system. Furthermore, CalFAD calculations on the niobium aluminum system displayed that the A15 phase was not stable at stoichiometric compositions up to 2000 degrees Celsius. This was supported by experimental results in which the A15 phase failed to form at stoichiometric compositions. As the temperature increased, the solubility of aluminum increased by 10% at 2000 degrees Celsius. Similar relationships are shown in the ASM phase diagrams. Gallium and aluminum showed comparable trends in solubility in the computational results. Based on this project, it is clear that niobium-based A15 alloys have favorable synthesis conditions, but more work is needed to understand the detailed thermodynamics and kinetics of the synthesis.